As you might have guessed, it's fish today. Cod is the first fish I think that one thinks of when perhaps you're making an everyday fish pie. But in fact, cod can be quite expensive, and there are a couple of alternatives I'd like to suggest to you other than cod. Now this is cod here. You'll recognise it by the sort of speckles of greeny yellow and a long line down the side, and this is how it looks in the fillets. But something that is considerably cheaper, often half as much, is coley, sometimes called saithe. And it's a slightly pinkier flesh than the cod, but it's very, very good in a fish pie, and you can buy it in fillets or cutlets. And something else called pollock, it is very, very good too. Again, it's not quite as white as cod, but very, very good, and cook it in exactly the same way. And you want to look at the fish and see that it's got a lovely shine to it, as all this fish has here, and then you know that it's really fresh. Also, by the smell you can tell too. The king of fish I always think of as a sole, and I've got a Dover sole here. I very rarely have Dover sole nowadays because it really is so expensive, and you recognise this sole because it's a lovely long pointed fish, and it has this rough skin, and it's the only sole that you can actually skin by peeling off the skin, and it's expensive. But there's something that I like very much is a lemon sole, and that's this sole here. I'll move the eye so you can have a good look at it. Lovely and shiny, and it's very, very good for when you're doing sole, perhaps in little rolls. I'm going to do a recipe on spinach in a moment, and it holds together. It's nice and firm and a good deal cheaper. There are other kinds of sole like witch and megrim rather, and a grey sole. Keep a lookout for those and buy them on price. They're all very similar in flavour, and it just depends on the catches to the price. So keep an eye and buy one that's good value. Of course, you'll recognise the place here because of its spots. It's something that I like to give my children because I like to serve a whole fish on the plate, and they can recognise it and enjoy it. It's quite easy to bone it. After all, you've only just got to put the knife down the centre and peel off the skin either side, then turn it over, and they learn to handle the fish, and they enjoy seeing the fish, perhaps with a little bit of a nice green vegetable on the side. If you're doing a whole fish for baking, a whole red bream is rather nice. This is a bream. It has a very, very tough skin, so you have to bake it whole and then cut off the skin and eat the flesh. It's a nice sort of family fish. It would serve about 4 people, something at this size. Then to whiting and haddock. Haddock has been popular for years as either serving whole or having in steaks and in fried fish shops. It's always quite expensive but good. You'll recognise the haddock by the thumb mark on the top. Can you see just there? It's got a sort of a grey mark, and I always think of that as a thumb mark, so you can see what you're buying and know what it is knowledgeably. And then the whiting really often is the same size, and it looks very similar, but it hasn't quite got the texture. And I was talking to my fishmonger, and he was saying that he often recommended it for pensioners, a rather smaller one than this, because they come in sizes from about 8 ounces, so you can buy a whole fish for a very inexpensive price. Now, all these fish that you're seeing are the sort that you would have to go to a good fishmonger for, and you'd have a nice lot to choose from. Then to monkfish. It's a very strange name, isn't it? This is monkfish. They come up to 10 pounds and they have horrible, ugly faces, but a very, very good fish. And it's a fish that until recently I hadn't tried. And I'm delighted that I found it because it is has a wonderful texture, very, very firm. In recipes, I used to use sometimes for fish turbot, and turbot and halibut are now pounds and pounds a pound, and they're not within my means, and I use monkfish instead for something like paella, or perhaps a French bouillabaisse. When you want a firm fish not to break up, use monkfish. And I've also got a tip for making something like scampi from little pieces of this. I'll show you my little cheat later on. Then to the cheapest of fish, and that is mackerel. Now, until recently, herring used to be cheaper than mackerel, but now there seems to be more mackerel about, and it's mackerel that's cheap. When you're buying it, it should have this lovely, lovely shininess to its skin, and also be plump and sort of rounded, and nice bright eyes, just like this one is. And you can buy it too smoked, and I'm going to make a patty of that later. And then to the herring, they should have a nice pink face. And I'll show you now how to bone a herring if you want to do it yourself at home. First essential is a nice sharp knife. Then take the fish, and the first thing is to cut its head off, and cut the head and as you come down to the belly part, give it a tug, and you can pull the entrails out, says she, hopefully. Haven't come, have they? That tells me I'm not a true fishmonger. Give it a pull with the knife, it's coming now. Things don't always work first time. A bit of wipe. Then start from the fleshy side, take a sharp knife and put it above the bone. So long strokes, using the whole blade, or nearly all the blade. This is just a very nice knife, all the way down. And I'm feeling over the top of the bone, and then you'll come through and you'll see the roe. You can hear me scraping along the bone. Now, I'm not as slick and quick as a fishmonger, but I'm doing it with great care because I don't want to leave any meat on the bone. There we are, we're through. Now, this has got a hard roe, so in our house that'll go to Primrose, our cat. Our male cat called Primrose, a bit strange. And then you want to turn it over, and then you can get the other side of the bone. Put your knife the other side, and you can feel down the bone. Very careful so I don't cut myself. Feel over the bone. Always leave a lot of flesh between the knife and you'll be all right. And if in doubt, take your fingers and run them, or it's your thumb, run them along, and you can just pull it out. Now, I don't make fish stock with this bone. I give it to the cat. And so we're left with the fish, all free from bones, and then all that remains is to scrape off this black skin, and then you can grill it or stuff it. If you were stuffing it, you put the stuffing in there, then fold it by. You could dip it in seasoned flour. You could put it in oatmeal, as they do in Scotland, and fry it. Now I'm going to prepare a fish for my recipe that I'm going to do. And the lemon sole, you remember I was saying lemon sole was very good for rolling. Well, I bought these 2 lemon fillets, sole fillets. They're full fillets, one from each side, and there's always one side of the fish that's dark, and I don't like leaving that dark skin, and the fishmonger may take it off, but if he hasn't time, you can do it when you come home. And unlike the Dover sole, you would just peel it off. If it's a lemon sole or any other sole, put the skin side down, lie the fish out, take the knife, make sure that the handle's dry so it doesn't slip in your hand, and you always do work the knife away from you so you don't cut yourself. Take the knife in the right hand and then start with a sawing action at the tail, not going through the skin, and you just tip it over. It's really not too difficult. I've always enjoyed working with fish. When I was at college training, we had to work in our holidays, and I went to work in our local fishmongers in Bath. It was called Peacocks, I remember it well. We used to start at 8 o'clock in the morning, but I really learnt to handle fish and enjoy fish. So press well down, and then you get right down to the skin, and you really shouldn't have any waste at all except for the skin at the end. Sawing action to the end. There we are, we've just got that little bit of skin left. And so you've got 2 fillets, both. I leave the white skin, and I shall roll those up for the next recipe. So I'll go and make a very nice fish dish with spinach. Now, the sole fillets for this sole Florentine want to be seasoned first of all. Now, the fish that I skinned, the dark skin, is always a little bit of a thinner fillet than the one with the white skin. So skin side uppermost, put lemon juice on first of all. Lemon goes so well with fish. I'm not adding a lot of highly seasoned spices to this because the flavour of the lemon sole will go. Pepper, ground black, a little bit of salt, and then roll it up. Skin side inside, and I've done it already with the other two. So in fact, these are fillets from two fish. You could have split them in half if you wish. Then to the base, I'm going to put spinach at the bottom of the dish. I've got a pound of spinach, a pound of cooked spinach, and it's leaf spinach. It's a lovely bright green. If you use frozen, just cook it as instructed on the packet. I've got a pint of sauce here. It's fairly thick white sauce. It maybe won't take the whole pint of milk, but it wants to be about this consistency. I'm going to add some of the white sauce to the spinach, about 6 tablespoons, give or take, and that makes the spinach extra creamy. When you see Florentine on a menu, you know that it's with spinach. It could be chicken Florentine, sole Florentine. Now, take the spinach, put it in the bottom of the dish, just level it off. So as we've got a nice green vegetable with this, there's no need to have anything more than perhaps a little creamy potato. Then take the fish and put it on top. This is about a 2-pint dish. And then over with the sauce. The sauce is seasoned. Push all the sauce to the bottom and then do a trail across the top. Make sure it's all covered. Doesn't matter if just a little bit of the spinach comes through. Level it over. Making a nice first course or a main course. Half as much fish for a starter. Then I've got breadcrumbs here, fresh breadcrumbs. They could be brown or white, and I've mixed them with some well-flavoured cheese. Put that all over the top, and that gives a lovely crisp top. Now at this stage you could leave it in the refrigerator just as it is, perhaps with cling film over the top once it's cooled, and then put it in the oven when you want it. And I've got it in the oven now. If you think I'm opening the grill, this is the bottom oven. And it will take about half an hour in a hot oven until it's just taken a nice pale brown colour over the top. Careful, the dish is precious. Move this one. It wants to be this lovely colour over the top. Fish doesn't take very long to cook, and to tell whether it's done, look at the fish in the middle, and the fish should be absolutely white through, not see-through. It should be absolutely white. So it's ready. Just a little parsley and perhaps some creamed potato. Let me give you the recipe. 4 large fillets of sole. I use lemon sole. Juice of half a lemon. 1 pound of frozen leaf spinach, thawed and cooked. 2 ounces of butter. 2 ounces of flour. And 1 pint of milk, that's for the sauce. Salt and ground black pepper. 2 ounces of cheddar cheese, grated. 1 ounce of fresh breadcrumbs. And cook it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees centigrade, that's gas number 6, for about 20 minutes until the top is nice and crispy brown and the fish is cooked through.